you do not do, any more, black shoe, in which I've lived like a foot for 30 years, poor and white, barely daring to breathe or chew. Daddy, I've had to kill you. You died before I had time. Marble heavy, a bag full of God, ghastly statue with one gray toe, big as a Frisco seal. And a head in the freakish Atlantic, where it pours bean green over blue, and the waters off beautiful Nauset, I used to pray to recover you. Ekdu. In the German tongue, in the Polish town, scraped flat by the roller, of wars, wars, wars. But the name of the town is common, my Polak friend. Says there are a dozen or two, so I never could tell where you put your foot, your root. I never could talk to you. The tongue stuck in my jaw. It stuck in a barbed wire snare. Ick, 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 ick. I could hardly speak. I thought every German was you, in the language obscene. Engine, an engine, chuffing me off like a Jew to Dachau, Auschwitz, Belsen. I began to talk like a Jew. I think I may well be a Jew. The snows of the Tyrol, the clear beer of Vienna, are not very pure or true, with my gypsy ancestress and my weird luck, and my Tarek pack, I may be a bit of a Jew. I have always been scared of you, with your Luftwaffe, goblet goo, and your neat mustache, and your Aryan eye, bright blue, Panzer man, oh you. Not God, but a swastika, so black no sky could squeak through. Every woman adores a fascist, the boot in the face, the brute heart of a brute like you. You stand at the blackboard, Daddy, and the picture I have of you, a cleft in your chin instead of your foot, but no less a devil for that, no not, any less the black man who bit my pretty red heart in two. I was 10 when they buried you. At 20, I tried to die and get back to you. I thought even the bones would do. But they pulled me out of the sack, and they stuck me together with glue. And then I knew what to do. I made a model of you, a man in black with a Mein Kampf look, and a love of the rack and the screw. And I said, I do. So, Daddy, I'm finally through. The black telephone's off of the root. The voices just can't worm through. If I've killed one man, I've killed two. The vampire who said he was you and drank my blood for a year. 7 years if you want to know. Daddy, you can lie back now. There's a stake in your fat black heart, and the villagers never liked you. They're dancing and stamping on you. They always knew it was you. Daddy, you bastard, I'm through. This is an analysis of the poem Daddy by Sylvia Plath. So who is the speaker? The speaker is a girl who is trying to figure out the relationship with her father. She's trying to come to terms with it and deal with it and these plaguing memories. And we see right here in the very first stanza that she has had a rough life. Horrible conditions. I mean, she's comparing her father to a shoe, which is the first metaphor we see. She's been trapped and she's over it. She's been stuck. She can't even breathe. Like, it has been suffocating and she's done. She wants a change and she wants out. In this poem, she is speaking to her father, who we find out actually died when she was very young. And as you can see, I've circled you, which is every time she's addressing him, which is a lot, which shows her passion directly towards him, her anger towards him. And this shows like she's acknowledging it's his fault. It is his fault. And also I have Daddy, which is highlighted the very few times she says it compared to you, which I found very interesting because I feel like Daddy's a more affectionate name for your father. And every time she says that, it's with a pretty harsh line. Like, Daddy, I've had to kill you. And this, Daddy, you bastard, I'm through. So I think it's very interesting, just the contrast in her language. And also, the poem being titled Daddy, which again is an affectionate name, compared to such a dark poem. So I feel like the poem starts off with just kind of an introduction of her being like, I'm done. And then it's kind of characterizing him and how he made her feel like a Jew. And so just kind of starts like that, making her feel like she's Jewish. She's identifying that. Then she starts to compare him to all these things. We learn about the fact that he was a teacher. And then she even shares that at one point she prayed and she even tried to commit suicide to get back to him. So that shows at one point her relationship with him was much different, but now has changed. And now she wants nothing to do with him, which we see at the end. So the content of this poem is definitely very dark. We have World War II, the Holocaust. We have the Nazi Party. We have Hitler. That's really a major just like chunk of this. And how pretty much he made her feel so oppressed and trapped. And like that, like over here, the tongue stuck in my jaw, it's stuck in a barbed wire snare. This repetition, she could hardly speak. Like, she felt so, like, she didn't have a voice. She was pretty much at loss for words. And so she felt very much oppressed. And that's how she's kind of connecting to the Jewish people at this time. So there's definitely just very dark imagery. I mean, we have her being sent to concentration camps. We have comparing her father to Hitler, getting, like, then we have just being, like, a vampire. Like, it's all very, the stake in your fat black heart, like, they're dancing on him. Like, it's all very dark and kind of twisted, and you're like, my reaction is like, oh my gosh, like this definitely her father had a major effect on her. Like, this is just very dark, and it just shows that it was a very, very complex and deep-rooted relationship. The word that comes to mind when I read this poem is, like, she feels oppressed. Like, I think just the connection with Hitler and the Nazi Party, and I just feel like that's all, like, that shows that he had this, like, control and this just awful, just, like, she felt like she was helpless, and that's really what comes to mind when I read this poem. To me, her attitude is like, I'm done, and she is finally placing all of her blame and all the trauma she has endured on him, and she's like, it's your fault. This repetition of the yous just really, to me, is what emphasizes that. She's pointing all her problems at him and being like, this is your fault. And I, like, at the end, when she, like, kills him again, she's like, now I'm, like, cleansing myself and I'm done. I'm free of you. And obviously, this is not all literal. Like, she wasn't actually sent to a concentration camp, but that's just showing how she felt, how helpless she felt, like being sent to this mass death she had no control over, just being carted away helpless. And, like, the vampire, like, obviously it wasn't actually a vampire, but that just shows the energy and life that was sucked out of her and how she was just drained and just empty. So in this poem, we definitely see some rhyming, but it's very inconsistent. And this poem has more sounds. Like, it's a very soundy noise poem, like akdu and just like ik and the you, and just like, it's very much, when you read it, read it out loud, you definitely have a different experience than just reading it on paper, which I also just kind of how it's so random. Like, the structure of it's very random, the rhyming's random. I think that really helps to emphasize how, like, lost and confused and how all over the place she is. Like, I mean, she even says right here, they stuck together with glue. Like, she, like, kind of just pieced apart. Like, it's just pieces with no full cohesion, you know? Like, it's kind of all over the place, which I think is a really great way to emphasize her state of mind. And also, even though there's, like, a line break, the last line will often, like, connect. like the tongue stuck in my jaw, it's stuck in a barbed wire snare. Like it sounds like it should keep going, but it doesn't. So that's also a very interesting and different way that she wrote this poem. I think this poem is really interesting because it highlights how much of an effect like a father can have on their kid. Like how much of an effect that these parental relationships can have on children. And I feel like that's not even like talked about that much, and how much, even though he died so long ago and she was quite young when he died, it still had a lasting effect on her. This poem is like nothing I've ever read before, and I found it really interesting to see a relationship between a father and a daughter, because we often, I feel like there isn't that much, at least that I've ever read, that goes into detail between a parent and their kid. And I feel like often it's more like two lovers, you know? So this was very interesting to see a familial relationship and just to see the effect that this had on her, even though it happened so long ago. This poem definitely showed me that family relationships and dynamics are often much more complicated than you would think. And I think it was a very interesting and fresh perspective, and I really enjoyed it.